Oh, it wouldn't be a Sunday service without some kind of technical grim.
Apparently, my face of the picture there, I was like,
that's because I was right. We'll dive on in. As to quote Roger from American Dad, we'll dive on in.
Well, Dave, it was our usual production standards, not necessarily usual high production standards.
Absolutely right. Elephant in the room, folks. We have been asked to pause our coverage of the Tamiya 911 GT3 RS until the 6th of October. To be fair, neither us nor the hobby company were aware that there was this embargo in place. But we are going to honour Tamiya's wishes. So see you on the 6th of October. Obviously, I'm going to carry on building it, but we'll carry on.
Never happened, right? It never happened.
Yeah, never happened. So never mind. Right, Drew. Yeah. How are you this week then?
All right, recovered. I had a bit of a dodgy week, really, because I was.
You said beforehand you had a bit of a problem with an eye, didn't you?
Yeah. It kind of my eyelid swelled. My eyelid swelled up over the course of Monday and Tuesday, and by Wednesday it was basically closed. So I had a couple of days off work with it, and but it seems to have sort of cleared itself up. It just all the swelling went down, but at one point it was so swollen that it felt like somebody was poking something into my eye. Very, very uncomfortable indeed. And as my job involves looking quite closely at things,
observe. Yes, exactly.
I said to my manager, "Look, this is not good. I'm going home." And he was just like, "Yeah, no, go. See you later. I'll see you when you're back."
Yeah.
And so that was that was it. That's kind of like the advantage of working places like I do, where you know, if you're not right, you don't go in. That's but no, it's still. I mean, I can still feel it a little bit in the corner of my eye now, but it's just a tiny little bit tender. It's not at all like it was earlier in the week, where it was just sore all the time. So that was my week. But I don't know whether it's one of those things where you get a bit run down and stuff. Just your body rebels a little bit sometimes, doesn't it? If you let yourself get too run down. And,
mine's fighting me all the time. Trust me, it's a constant war.
Well, yeah, it's like that discussion we just had, isn't it? Where you know, as two middle-aged old men bickering on a live stream.
Speak for yourself, darling.
No, well, I'm speaking for us both, John. But we're not. We have to accept we're not 25 anymore. And as I said, John, live within our physical means.
We're not the age when we first came across each other. Let's put it that way.
No, no, and the years start to tell at some point, don't they? A little bit, I think, but otherwise, no, fine. You know, it got me a little bit of extra bench time. So
I thought you're supposed to be resting that eye, not putting.
Well, you know, it just like I say, by Thursday. I mean, Wednesday I came home and I basically went to bed and stayed in bed for the rest of the day. By Thursday, it really started getting a lot better already. So it was just, you know, hey ho, these things happen, don't they? These things happen. You've just got to roll with them.
Yep. Yep.
And you?
No, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Yes, no, it's my mate. Unfortunately, my mate Alan went down with flu. He's the guy I go walking with every week. So it's
Reg.
Reg. So it's been a quiet. But having said that, I was out Monday. I had to run an errand for my friend Laura. and then we went out for a walk on Wednesday. So yeah, so it's been quite an active week. But I'm looking forward to seeing Reg this week so that we can cram a good walk in. So, and also Thursday did go down on the West Somerset Railway on a busman's day off. So
he has had flu and he's recovering from it. Don't walk too far. Give him a chance.
Yeah, I will do. I will do.
Give him a chance.
Yeah. Right. News. Edward announced at their E-Day event. Does this come as a surprise, Drew? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it does actually, John, because they I mean, what was the last 30-second scale kit they did?
I'm sure they have done a 30-second scale kit in the past.
No, they have, but it was. I mean, I'm thinking it was a Messerschmitt 109E, but that was like 15, 16 years ago. They kind of. I'm sure somebody, because I don't build in 30-second. It kind of the 30-second market, if you like, sort of slips me by a little bit. So I don't know what the last 30-second scale kit they did was. Yeah, as Stephen Pryor says, it was the 109E, which is a good long while ago. So Edward actually deciding to slip back into the 30-second market is, I think it's actually it's big news, and it's quite surprising news, because it's no small investment given the levels of detail and quality that you expect from Edward these days. They did do a 108, but I'm pretty sure that was before the 109E. So yeah, I think it's newsworthy news, if that makes sense.
I'm with you there. I mean, obviously, they've got a lot of research put aside from their 48 scale kits.
Yeah,
we will come to in a second.
The information they've got.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's have a think about what is out there in terms of 30-second scale P51B/Cs. Obviously, the oldie Revell kit from before you and I were born, and that's not very good kit.
No, well, it's of its time, isn't it? It's
of its time.
And
Trumpeter did one in 30-second scale. I'm sure they did.
I'm struggling to think of much else. I mean, for most manufacturers, the Mustang story starts and ends with a D.
Yeah.
It's just that I understand that. I understand why it is that way, but at the same time, it leaves us fans of the other marks in the cold a bit. Because I like, me, my favorite is a P51H, and I also have a real soft spot for Allison Mustangs. So it's nice to see that that there appears to be a market enough for earlier variants of the Mustang, or different variants of the Mustang, I should say, to make it make the juice worth the squeeze for them.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick look on Scalemates at the moment. Apparently Trumpeter did the P51B Mustang all the way back in 2007, which to me still feels like the recent past, but is in fact a decade and a half ago.
Yeah, I can remember, because I bought it. I bought that kit because a Messerschmitt 109 in of any variant in 30-second scale is not a big model. It's a decidedly
Messerschmitt 109 P51. Don't you mean?
Oh, sorry. I thought we were still talking about. Sorry, I was talking about Edward's previous 30-second kits.
No, we're talking about the. It was Trumpeter did the.
Sorry, John. My head was in another page. I was thinking we were talking about when Edward released the Messerschmitt 109E, which appeared to be their last home-produced 30-second scale kit, shall we say?
Yeah. No, fair enough. No. But yes, it's. I say it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? I mean, goodness me, how many color schemes can you hang off of a Mustang? If only there was somebody around that we could talk to about Mustangs. Oh, what do you know? There it is. Look.
Oh, no.
Look. Yes, indeed. I saw that Mustang. I just had to get on here and I am a scale bigot, right? So I build 72nd scale, but when I see models like this, it makes me so excited because I know I'll see so many awesome 32nd scale builds at shows and model club meetings, stuff like that. It's just it makes me really excited.
Excellent. I think that's a very philanthropic approach to other scales, Chris. Given your inherent bigotry.
That's right. I'm a horribly prejudiced person when it comes to
horrible. You're a disgraceful human being. Scale it.
Dave Fleming says the return of the tie. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad one of us is. I'm
glad you made the effort this week.
Yeah,
it's Sunday morning here. In theory, I should have just gotten back from church, but theory is different from practice. But
does that mean you didn't go this morning? Or
no?
Oh, okay. Okay.
But no, it's. I've seen people. There's a guy in my club who scratch built, or he converted a D model in 32nd scale into a B model way back when, and it takes a ton of work, and it takes a lot of attention from model makers to get it right. So
it does, because for many a long year, sort of like the prevailing wisdom was that the P51B was just a D with a high back. And it's a very, very different aeroplane in almost every major sort of part of the airframe is completely different, isn't it? It's just got the same shape, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I actually wrote a book about the B model a couple years ago. And if I was a better title whore, I'd hold one up right now to show you. But in writing that, I learned a lot about not just the differences between the D and the B, which I known as a modeler, but the struggle it took to get to the B into combat and into a real effective airplane, even after it had entered combat.
Because it was all that. I mean, I didn't realize until a few years ago that even, although it only had 450s as opposed to 6 on the D, the installation was completely different on the B.
Yeah.
It was the guns that they had to camp the guns over and to get them in the wing and all this kind of stuff, and it made them basically unreliable.
The mounts were set up by North Americans so they could accommodate British requests for different armaments, and American requests. It was kind of a universal mount, but it involved having the guns kind of tilted, and as a result, the feeds would have to make
went up and over, didn't it? And
And so if you were in a high G maneuver firing, which is oftentimes what you were doing in combat, things had a propensity to jam. So the fact that it got fixed basically on the job by people who were flying the hardest parts of missions when the Mustang arrived is pretty amazing. So it's a great subject. There's all kinds of great schemes for that the B model. And
I think when they got to the D, North American just said, "Stuff it. You're having 50s, and that's it." So that's what you're having. This is how it's being mounted, and there weren't any reliability issues as such with the D's installation, were there?
No. Everything was ironed out. Everything was largely ironed out on the B, with the exception of that tail fillet, the vertical tail.
Yeah.
It was absent on the early Ds, but added as a kit. So, and it was added to a lot of B models too. If you see,
there's in fact we're moving on to another B, aren't we? Shortly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
because I think it's fair to say, Edward, with this, they are going to ring this one with every kind of possible variation you can think of, as they've done with their 48 scale kits. So, I think it's.
I mean, I have to say the 48 scale kit is just sublime.
Talking of which, because this is one of the latest boxings they are doing, and it's with the dorsal fin, and oh my goodness me, the color schemes in this boxing.
Good Lord.
Could be a bit more colourful, that one, but we've got that one, which was Harold Kick's aircraft from the 325th Fighter Squadron, 318th Fighter Group, 15th Air Force. And then we have a slightly more subdued one from the 26th Fighter Squadron. That one is
I like that.
with the Malcolm Hood. That's pretty funky.
I like that.
Piano
Mhm.
keys.
Yeah.
And then the limeys turn up. I'll look at that. Well, actually, it's the
Yeah, I was going to say limeys.
it's the Poles.
The combat wing of the RAF turns up.
Yes. And yeah, I always liked. I've always liked that scheme on
I like that as well. Actually, I do like that as well. That's nice.
Then we have that. I like that one. I just think invasion stripes on a B or a C always look.
Actually, can I change my answer? Can I change my answer? That's the one.
Well, hang about, Drew, because you might change your answer.
That's the Mustang on the cover of my book. Is the Bonnie B? Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. That one's a little bit try too hard.
Okay. Because I like the fact that there are huge areas of natural metal kind of showing.
Yeah, I kind of there's bits of it. There's bits that I like, but it is. I think it's putting entirely too much effort into it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that one.
That's the one for me. I think that's because I mean it's such a. I mean I built 2 of them already, so building a third won't exactly be a particular hardship, will it?
Now I've up in the attic. I've got a couple of the oldie monogram kits because, goodness, I'm just trying to think. Up until the late 1980s, the monogram kit was the only game in town for a 48 scale B. Then in the, I've got to try and get this right. Then in the 1990s, monogram as part of the Pro Modeler range, they kind of retooled it slightly, didn't they? They gave it engraved panel lines. Around the same time that Accurate Miniatures were doing their P51B/C. And then obviously mid-90s, Tamiya came out with their kit. And then there was a Polish or a Czech company did one. Trying to remember. Studar. ICM, yes, of course it was.
Yeah, I think your timeline's a little bit off there, John. In that what happened was, I don't know the exact time for the Pro Modeler retool, but Accurate Miniatures released the Allison Mustangs, and then Tamiya released the B, and then Accurate Miniatures a year or 2 later released their own B.
Yeah.
So I think that was the actual timeline. So by the time that Accurate Miniatures B/C had turned up, the Tamiya kit was already. I think the Tamiya kit is 94. Somebody will be on scale, mate. It's 93 or 94, something like that.
I'm sure it's 96.
I'd say my memory is of living here when that was released, which would put it post.
95 apparently. 1995. There we go. Split the difference.
Yeah. It's also all these years are such a blur these days, aren't they?
Aren't they just?
And not just because of my eyesight.
They pass like trains. I wave. They don't slow down.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
That's all right. 1995. Because I built that for Scale Models magazine. I actually bought it from Nobby's. They didn't send me a kit. I went to Nobby's Hobbies on Gloucester Road in Bristol. But I built that for Scale Models magazine. But I did it in I say a British scheme. It was an American one, US Air Force one, but in British camouflage with an RAF fin flash on it. So it was, It was a photograph actually in Airfix magazine, which I always like the look of the aircraft. So, but Chris knows the aircraft, I mean. And so when was the last time? When was the last all new P51B? So we're going back 20 odd years, aren't we, Drew?
What in
48 scale?
In 48 scale, yeah. I mean, you're talking like 1998, 99 for the ICM kit, which was essentially from ICM's, shall we say, shadier era, and it's basically the Tamiya. Mind you, Academy were no less shady in the early days. So they're in august company, shall we say?
Yeah, it's like I remember building a Tempest, an Academy Tempest, and I got curious and got my Heller Tempest out and put the fuselage halves together. And not only did they match dimensionally, but all the locating pins fit together.
Yeah.
It's like,
wow. The only thing that the Academy managed to work in was a wing plan forming accuracy.
Right, exactly.
Which actually turns out that to be very, very, it's just the aileron, isn't it? Even the wingtips the right shape. It's just the aileron's a bit too sort of bowed.
Yeah, I found the horizontals were a little weird, and the landing gear was too long, so I just used Heller parts and fixed it that way.
You just do an interior for that as well?
I did. Yep.
You did, yeah.
Second or third one I did, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. That's over a quarter of a century ago now, Chris. Not just.
I know. Ancient history. Yeah. I remember I was in a different house, everything was different. The all circumstances were different. You have these personal attachments to those things, those projects.
I'm gonna pluck an address out of my dim and distant mind here. 957 Kurtner.
Wow. Yes, that's right. That was the old house that I haven't lived in more than 20 plus years. So.
I have no idea why I'd remember that, Chris. 957 Kurtner. I did visit you twice there.
Yep, and you left a Marillion CD behind. That was nice.
Is that brave?
I think so. Yeah. It's empty.
I've been looking for that thing for 20 bloody years.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I mean, here's my look. I've already got my 48 scale one built.
Here's what I made earlier.
My 72nd scale Arma, which is sneaking up on completion, and you can sort of see my weird way of painting natural metal airplanes.
That is a beautiful model as well, though. It's
a great model, and if Edouard just cribbed a lot of the interesting extras they throw in the cockpit for their 48 scale kit, they'd be way ahead of everybody. But when you talk about schemes for the B model, you've got things like this plane is going to be Kitten, which was known as the plane flown by Charles McGee. Well, after Charles McGee rotated home, it went to depot. It got the fin fillet. It got a totally new set of markings. It went from being whatever the code letters were on McGee's airplane to saying 51, and was passed to a friend of mine named Woody Spears. And I only figured out Woody's particular scheme long after my book on the Tuskegee Airman came out, but I found a picture from Tony Frizzell, who's a famous photographer who came over. It was a great picture, imagine a sort of a mostly vertical frame, and in the foreground, the main thing in the picture is a goat with these spiral horns next to the runway, and in the background are airplanes. And I realized that one of the airplanes in the background was this airplane, so blow that sucker up, and there it is. And the other interesting thing about it is that on the tail, they in depot, to figure out which airplane it was, they took gasoline and wiped away the red paint over the serial number. So when it was handed back, it didn't have a fully red tail. It had a red tail with an irregular splotchy silver field with the serial number in it.
We've all had models looking like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I know that for a fact because Woody showed me a picture of the airplane in a Polish junkyard after the war because he'd been shot down. He ended up crashing and being taken prisoner by the Germans, then freed by the Russians like 10 days later. And the plane got put in a junkyard, and there's a picture of a Russian soldier posing next to the tail of his airplane. So the detective work is fun, but the point is, if you want to build something where you've got almost unlimited possibilities, you can't go any. Unlimited possibilities without being German. You can do no better than a P-51B. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because it never actually, although the D supplanted it from 1944 onwards, it was still there till the very end of the war, wasn't it? Till the last day of the war. It was just, I think it was one of those types that, much like things like the Marauder and the Hellcat and the Typhoon, once the war ended, they went away. There was no, there was no ceremony or anything like that. When the war ended, those types went away really, really fast. And those some sort of hung around doing various little roles, a bit of target tugs, a bit of test work and stuff like that. As a species, they basically cease to exist in terms of frontline service really fast.
If you really want to be different with a B, there are all kinds of air racers, the distance airplanes, all kinds.
Yeah, that all surprised me that it was a surprisingly popular racer.
Yeah, well, it was faster than the D model, and thus you saw a lot of them racing.
And I suspect very more readily available. Because like I say, it had gone away. So there were probably, there were probably far more spare B/C airframes.
Especially immediately after World War II, because they're still using the Ds and the Ks as National Guard airplanes.
Yeah. And right up to the 50s, and then they dragged them all back out for the Korean conflict, rather than Thunderbolt, which that's another argument.
Right, talking of post-war, the next we're slightly behind on this one, but the next newish kit that has been announced, and it is 72nd scale from Fly. Oh my goodness me. Dun, 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 dun. I can hear Drew having a nice sigh of
well, I mean, if you don't love the Tiger Cat, you're wrong. That's all there is to it. It's a glorious aeroplane.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what this looks like, because Fly generally do large scale kits. So dropping back to 72nd, I'm hopeful and curious.
They're doing several variants. So they're doing
there, isn't it? So,
yeah, that's the F7F 2D. They're also doing the F7F F3 and F3K. And they are doing the F7F F2 and F2N. And they're doing my favorite variant, which is the F7F 3N, the Night Fighter. Oh my goodness me. I am all over that variant. Still haven't quite forgiven AMT for the way they balked their 48 scale one with the slightly underscale nose, but
yeah, they did make a mess of that a little bit, didn't they?
Because it's a shame. It's actually the AMT kit in 48 scale is actually really nice, but yeah, that their radar nose. But anyway, so like I say, we've got the Fly are going to be doing or they say they're going to be doing the F7F 2D, the F7F3/F3K, the F7F2 and F2N, and the lovely Night Fighter. Now, amazingly, not the first 72nd scale Tiger Cat kits around, because in the early 1970s, late 1960s, it was Monogram.
I think 68 rings a bell for the Monogram kit.
66, actually.
66.
Yeah, 1966 apparently for the Monogram 72nd scale kit. Then also Aoshima in 1969 did a Tiger Cat. According to the box art, they also did an F7F 3N as well. So Monogram only ever did the basic.
I don't think I've ever seen the Aoshima kit. I knew it existed, but I don't think I've ever seen it. I built the Monogram as a kid, because I loved the type even as a kid, and that was your option. So I built that as a kid, and that was a great little model, actually. It's a very nice little model.
Yeah, I built one as a photo bird in Korea. They were single seat photo planes in Korea, and yeah, the kit's fantastic. If you at the time, Ares had just come out with detail parts for it, engines and interior. And
yes, yeah.
And it made a big difference, but the basic kit is totally solid. And I
mean, the basis, it's like a detailer's dream, isn't it? It's got
it's a great plane it's a great model to learn about rescribing on, because basically every surface until you assemble it is almost perfectly flat.
Well, this is because I can remember is it Octopus? They were the sort of side shoot of Pavla, weren't they? They released a Tiger Cat, and it absolutely astounded me when I tried to build that kit how you could mess up such a basic airframe that badly and make it so difficult to build. Because like you say, Chris, in terms of shapes, it's very much like, I would almost liken it to the Canberra. It's kind of like a straight fuselage with planks stuck on.
Yeah.
There's nothing at all complicated about the the geometry of it, even if some of the shapes are quite subtle, geometry wise, it's just a straight line with planks on the side.
Yeah,
there's nothing complicated about it, and yet Pavla managed to turn it into an absolute nightmare. Bless them. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, those two, that and the Bearcat, I still want somebody to properly tackle them. You know, one of the big guys, shall we say? If you know
I am frankly staggered that we still. I say we. You know, I mean that in a broader sense, but I can't think of anybody who's done a mainstream 72nd scale Bearcat kit in recent times. I think there might have been one of the smaller manufacturers has done it, but other than that,
and again, Hobby Boss released a simplified. But yeah, I mean, I think in
Hobby Boss did a simplified Bearcat.
Yeah, Hobby Boss did a simplified Bearcat. Yeah.
Sword did a Bearcat a while back, but again, short run production style and early Sword. So you're dealing with some.
You're right, they did. I had completely gone off.
And you know, the thing is, I mean, even in 48 scale, every release of a Bearcat in recent years has had, you know, something that makes you go, yeah, it's like, it's, you know, because I mean, the Hobby Boss Bearcat, it's a nice model, but you can, and I think it's not horribly inaccurate, but it just feels just a bit clunky, and you think, Lord, if you know, if Edouard or somebody picked up the Bearcat or the Tiger Cat and ran with it, you know, I'd be the happiest camper in Christendom.
I think Bren Gun did it. Well, I know they did because it's in my closet up there. But they did an all resin Bearcat. But it's one of the weirder resin. I've seen it built up. It looks phenomenal. But it's one of the weirder construction efforts I've ever seen, because it's sort of the fuselage in big chunky sections. You put it all together, and it's very unconventional. So it's kind of a race between me getting the gumption to build that thing, or a plastic kit company coming out with a more conventional thing that I won't have to sweat over quite so much.
But I think because the two types, both types, really just missed the war in any real sense. Yeah. I think some Tiger Cats got there about a week before the end of the war, didn't they? But never flew any missions on one of the Pacific Islands. But yeah, it's one of those types that I guess, like the Sea Fury to some degree, just missed the war, and so kind of faded into obscurity a little bit, which is such a shame, because they were the ultimate expression of piston engine fighters, weren't they? Both, you know, you take the Bearcat, the Tiger Cat, the Sea Fury, and the Hornet, and you've got these ultimate expressions of piston power, and all of them.
Whirlwind, obviously.
Sorry.
And the Westland Whirlwind, obviously.
No, I'm talking about the ultimate expressions at the end of the war, John.
I was going to joke the Bristol Brigand, but
well, I mean, the Brigand was a triumph of power over
common sense.
Yeah, but yeah, it's such a shame, because they're such astounding aeroplanes in so many ways. I mean, I just thought, every time I think of the Bearcat, I think what you did effectively was take an aircraft the size of a Wildcat and stick a Hellcat engine on it. What did you think was going to happen? I kind of like it. I could not choose between the Sea Fury and the Bearcat, and often people do. You get these little polls on, you know, online forums and stuff. Which do you prefer? And you put the Bearcat and the Sea Fury together and tell me to choose, and I genuinely can't. They're both just phenomenal aeroplanes. They're just.
I would tend to err on the Sea Fury for the simple reason. Cover your ears, folks. But I think Sea Fury's carried more interesting schemes. They carried more varied and interesting schemes.
I wouldn't actually disagree with that. But as a design, as an aeroplane, they were both such incredibly.
They were just pure muscle and brawn, weren't they? They were just.
Yeah, but in like small. In a small package as well.
Yeah.
Although when you think about it, you put the Sea Fury next to a Tempest, and there's only the major difference is about 2 feet of wingspan in scale between the two. but they put the cat down.
Mine's just coming to do
no
that.
boundaries. It's sad, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like between the two, there's barely any difference in size, and yet the Sea Fury always looks significantly smaller than a Tempest to me.
Yeah.
And there's actually barely any difference. It's like that wing center section was taken out, and that was it. But yeah, it's we've got off track a little bit about a Tiger Cat.
Tiger Cat.
I think
that is a super welcome addition. I have a small Korean War collection. I built it's so small. There's no F-86 yet, but there's a bunch of other stuff that was in the Korean War, and that is totally welcome because that actually did a ton of work. Not just as interdicting enemy aircraft, but mostly about night intruder missions.
Yeah. And I can remember reading Eric Winkle Brown's sort of comparison of the Sea Hornet and the Tiger Cat, because clearly he flew both because he flew everything in the world ever. And his conclusion was that the Sea Hornet was a far more pleasant aeroplane to fly. But the Tiger Cat was a far more effective aeroplane as a night fighter, and you kind of look at the two designs and go, "Yeah, I can see that." You can see
True. Am I right in thinking that the Royal Navy actually did trial a Tiger Cat at one stage? They did.
Yeah, they were looking at it, and I can remember the Commando. Comics as a kid. There was one that was, and it was called Tiger Cat Island, and it was a Fleet Air Arm flying Tiger Cats from a Pacific island at the end of World War II. And I can remember, this would have been, it was a very, very much a what if, but Tiger Cat Island, it was called.
I'm just Googling that. I can't find it, but I'm going to look that up after the show. Next news item, we are going to have to dive on in, to quote Roger from American Dad. Now, this I got to say, has piqued my interest. Now, this is a company called Neverland Hobby. I was going to put up some video of Marillion Neverland, but
everything about that screams ICM to me.
Yeah, well, they're doing two boxings of this. They're doing the basic version, which, according to Hobby Link Japan, you should be able to order for around 12 of your British pounds. And then they are doing an elite edition, which comes with photo etch and 3D internal parts. Goodness me. For a 1/700th scale sailing ship, the more deluxe version is going to be around £19. But as it says, includes all decks, keels, ribs, and other internal structures. The gun ports are open, showcasing the battleship's demeanor during combat. Includes 3D printed ship's bell, steering wheel, and mortars to further enhance the level of detail. Precisely designed for easy assembly. Includes sail components. Includes winch, boiler, and all cannon components. That's the deluxe version, and there's the basic version as well. But the actual ship itself, the actual model, is injection molded. But I've got to say, chaps. Oh, by the way, Neverland, their only other kit that they've done is a 144 scale U-boat. So I know we'd had them on the show before, but I got to say that as the son of a Navy family, son and grandson and great-grandson of a Navy family, this tickles me, and I think as a Christmas present to myself, I might actually get one of these.
I like it. It's again, as quite often with me, it tickles me, but not enough to want to build it.
Mm-hmm.
It tickles me enough to want to see other people's builds of it.
Yes, a friend of mine builds 700 scale, scratch builds 700 scale ships from the turn of the century, the 20th century period. Yeah. And
Vladimir
Yakubov. Yeah. He will build some of these internal decks that are somewhat exposed, and then when he puts the whole model together, you really can't see anything at all. So the audacity of all the stuff on the gun decks of this thing is incredible, and I think it would lend itself to some extremely brave soul doing a cutaway of the ship that would expose all that stuff, because that seems really, really fascinating to me to do it in this scale.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be really interested in seeing inside the box. I'm as certain as I can be that I'll never be enthused enough to want to build one myself, because it's frankly terrifying. But you know, there are people out there for whom this is, you know, this is basically their crack. They'll absolutely love it, and they'll do amazing things with it. So I look forward to seeing what other people do with it.
Yeah, if you don't like rigging biplanes, then this is a whole new kind of level of hell, isn't it? Really?
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will put one in a bottle. Somebody will put one in a bottle.
Absolutely. Another new manufacturer, and they've previously done kind of resin and 3D printed stuff, and it's a company from China called Orange Hobby. And they are doing an SD KFZ 7/2 with the 37mm flak 36.
Well, they did F-35s in 72nd scale as well, didn't they?
Have they?
Yeah, Bs and Cs. They're the only C that was available up until the Italeri kit was released.
Okay.
It was quite a long time ago, but they also did a lot of resin bits for it as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I found was all their kind of resin bits and pieces that they do, but this appears to be their first 72nd scale military kit. It's injection molded, but will include 3D parts and also photo etch, as you can see there on the screens. I like the look of this, chaps. I still like to build 72nd scale armor, and yeah, it's a challenge. These things are a challenge. They are a challenge to paint and weather and not overdo them. So this it's apparently if you order it from HobbyLink Japan, it's around the £20 mark, which, Drew, I think we've got to accept these days that 72nd scale armor is no longer 50p.
Absolutely, because you're getting phenomenal levels of detail in it these days, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean that again might be a Christmas present to myself. That's a CAD render of it. There's an actual shot of the box, so you can see the 3D resin print, the 3D printed stuff, the photo etch, and the injection molded bits and pieces. I think the tracks may be Lincoln length. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not seeing any rubber bands there. I'm just having a look. Yeah, they're Lincoln length. So I might take a punt on that. I might take a punt on that and the HMS Victory. Even if I don't get round to building them, it still gives us content for the show, doesn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. It gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
I love the small armor. I like things that I like small 72nd scale military vehicles that aren't tanks, right? Anything that's not a tank.
Yeah.
Tanks are great and everything, but they're just not my thing. But a flak vehicle like that, to me, is a great complement to the stuff I have, and to the Thunderbolts I have in my cabinet. That's really the opponent. It was things like that, flak 37s versus P47s. That was really the
Yeah. No, I think I mean I've got plenty of small scale armor about, and very occasionally I like to have a go at one, but they do tend to get exceedingly fiddly, because even in 72nd scale, a main battle tank is a small piece of real estate. I know our Craig Sargent loves building 72nd scale armor and does phenomenal work with them. But they do tend to get quite fiddly, even in, you know.
I was going to say, Drew, like me, you grew up. Your formative modelling years were probably with some of the Matchbox 76 scale stuff, which
I mean, you want to, if you want to, you know, if you want to really sort of pique my my nostalgia, just show me the Sherman Firefly box, or the
Comet,
the M16. Let me. Not the Dragon Wagon, but the hauler they did.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, those two pieces of box art can trigger my my nostalgia very, very quickly.
Oh, for goodness sake! Somebody will prompt us what that was. It was the Diamond T, wasn't it?
Somebody just said Darth Billy just said Diamond T.
Diamond T. Yeah.
But I just, I mean, and the thing is, I never even built that one. Rory built it a time or two. You know, when I was sort of like 8 or 9, and he'll have been 13 or 14, and he built it a couple of times. But I built the Firefly
and the Comet.
Never built that. Never built that.
That's a nice kit. That I think I've got a Revell boxing of it somewhere. I know Revell. One of the things they've got coming up for their it's their October release is that they're doing a reissue of the Matchbox Humber armored car, complete with the desert base. So sadly now molded in one color, but can't have everything.
That's progress for you.
Progress for you. Right. The last news item for tonight, and it's a kind of mix of the old, well, kind of mix of the old and the new. This is Eduard, and they are going to be doing the L410 UVP, the Turbolet, but as the box says, Eduard Heavy Retro, because this is actually the Gavia kit. Gavia, which was first. When do you think it was first released, Drew? Chris, when do you think?
I want to say 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, that neighborhood sounds about right.
Yep. Close. 1997.
Oh my lord.
which again, to me, still, you say 1997, I still think, oh, well, that's still fairly recent, isn't it? It's nearly 30 years ago, for goodness sake. So anyway, so there we go. So this is, like I say, they're adding some new bits to it. I think they're doing I think they're adding a new nose and other detail parts. There are some lovely schemes.
It's a pretty aeroplane, isn't it?
It's a kind of like, it's almost as if a Britain Northern Islander and a Twin Otter decided to have children. I like that one.
Ooh. That's
yeah.
Oh, I heard a definite ooh from Chris there.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a very attractive scheme.
Oh, that's nice as well, man.
There are some belters coming up in a second.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah.
Oh no, I like that one. I
like the fact that it's clearly, you know, at some point somebody just mashed it off and sprayed loads of yellow over it.
Yep.
We need to make these camouflage planes more easily seen.
Yeah. Even that is, you know, is nice. I like that. That's very much Eastern Europe 1970s. In terms of that kind of that kind of approach, but it's a very, very attractive little aeroplane, isn't it?
I had a look at some of the sprue shots of it. It's very 1997, I think is the best way of putting it. It was probably for low pressure injection molding at the time. It was pretty much cutting edge stuff, and I think possibly Eduard might have tidied it up a little bit. So I think what's the note? I wrote a note on my stuff here. Workmanlike. That was how.
The thing is, I've got a sort of a cupboard not too far away from it, and it's got a lot of MPM 1990s kits in it. You know, most of which have been replaced by themselves by now. You know, like MPM have replaced them with, you know, Special Hobby have replaced older MPM, like the Battle, for instance. I've got multiple boxes of the original Battle. They're never clearly never gonna be built, and they're not actually worth anything.
Right.
Like, you know, because nobody collects those sorts of kits. You know, it's not collectible. I'm never going to build it. There's a new battle just about to be released. So I've got these things, and you know, I bought them nearly 30 years ago. I might as well throw them in the bin.
I always
just can't bring yourself quite to do it.
I always check the detail parts, the resin parts, see if I could spec those or the decals. And I think it's amusing to build like an Airfix Beaufort with the decals from a MPM kit.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I built the MPM kit. Look how good I am. Oh no, forget it. It's actually
no. But you know what I mean. It's got this. You know, I've got multiple. I mean, I bought the Special Hobby JU 388s, the Night Fighter and the Bomber, because I like the 388, and I got them out the other week to see what was what was going on with them, sort of thing, sort of 25 years on, and I thought, oh, these are a bit rough, aren't they? Because when I got them and I opened them up, it was like the cutting edge of limited run. And now I look at them and I went, oh, these are a bit rough. Oh, yeah. And the vac form canopies are now a deep yellow color. There's just absolutely, they're of no use to man or beast.
Yes, I want to build a P36. I got my Special Hobby kit out, which is, it's molded pretty well. The plastic parts look great, but the canopy is bright orange. So
yeah,
what do I do with that? You know, it's hard to smash form the side lights on a Curtis Fighter. Doesn't really work very well.
Yes, that's always.
I seem to remember when the Hobbycraft kits came out in the kind of early mid-ish 1990s. I quite like them, but apparently they're all over the place. So.
Well, I think probably not quite as all over the place as, say, the Vampire.
Oh, goodness me!
But the thing is, if you're not completely au fait with the shape of something, it can escape you how out of whack it is. You know, everybody who ever looked at a Vampire looked at that kit and went, "Oh dear." But people had to be, you know, it took. I would suggest probably some people in the United States to look at the P36 kit and go, oh dear, whoops. You know, I mean, I can remember looking at the Fujimi Hornet, the 72nd scale Hornet from Fujimi, and looking at the nose and going, oh dear. People are, you know, different people are sensitive to different things in shape, you know. And so I suspect probably the P36 was pretty far from the truth. But it required somebody with an interest in the subject to see that.
Right, right. Now, I like this. I like this Letov reboxing. The whole idea of taking an older kit and refreshing it with some new parts and stuff. That's like my entire Obscure business model. It's like, don't make stuff for the new stuff. Make stuff for the old stuff that needs it. You know.
And I kind of like, it feels a bit like the Airfix Classics in terms of what they're doing here. It's like, you know, we're not making any bones about the fact that this is a really, really old tooling, and we're re-releasing it. And, you know, don't say you weren't warned, basically.
Right.
But you know, the potential is there to build a really impressive model. So,
and I think pairing it with those schemes in the box is a great idea, because you see one of those that clicks with you and you got to build it. It doesn't matter what kind of pain you're going to go through. It's worth it for the end product.
More specifically, Chris, you see those schemes and you buy it with a view to building it and then never build it.
Which Edward doesn't mind. I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, Edward have made their money from it either way, haven't they? So,
gents, any other?
I just feel rushed these days when we get a good.
You've had your hour. I just also, before we go any further, I want to have a big shout out, especially tonight, to Russell Taylor, who sent us the links for the Tiger Cat and HMS Victory, and to Anthony Bird, who sent us the links to the Gavia, the Edward Gavia L410. So thank you both, gents. That was. I'm
going to call out Ian Hart up at this point.
Oh, no, what's he done?
He's been in the comments, and I think if you're here, you just need to switch the camera on.
No. We've got. I have got to go. So I've got to go in every.
No. I mean, in future.
Yes. Yeah.
No, you've got to go and do. You've got to go and your ghost blocking.
Oh, incidentally, Spencer says 1997, the year I began my career as an editor. There we go. Sorry, Chris, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say I've got to get going myself, so I'm with you on this, John. It's that time of the morning for me. My wife is finally calling me from the front room. So,
Christopher, you are always more than welcome to join us. You know that, don't you? And
thank you. I appreciate that.
It's been an absolute especially tonight, the extra perspective and angle you've added to our discussion, because that's been brilliant. And that's, yeah, I think Drew's.
I mean, we're amazing. We're amazing when it's just two of us, but more people make it better.
That's right. It's fun to watch you, and it's also fun to be here talking to you. And,
yeah. And I'll wager it's probably makes it more interesting for the viewers as well. So you know, that's why I joke about Ian, but if he's here, you know, last week was just a singularly phenomenal evening.
That show will be again. That show will be coming. That we've had to kind of excise it from the history books for the next week or so, but that one will be coming out once the embargo is lifted on next Sunday. So that will be back. So do apologize for that, folks. Gents, thank you so much for this evening. That has been an absolute blast. It really has been. Big thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight. We just didn't get the chance to read your comments. I do apologize. But fingers crossed, might do some pop-up lives in the next few days. Just stuff that we can talk about. And beyond that, big thank you to Drew, big thank you to Chris, thank you to everybody who's tuned in this evening. Until the next time, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you very
later.
Bye for now.